TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, welcome in. It's Friday, for gosh sakes. September 6th. It's kind of an eve day for me. Not that it's any big deal, but tomorrow I will be 57. So tomorrow's my birthday. How about that? So I get to go on Twitter and see the balloon thing going on or whatever that does. It's kind of fun. So it's kind of an interesting day, right? So we've been on this show and I've talked about certain things, and it just invariably always just hits you right in the face. The first game today was the Yankees and the Cubs. And I get it, the wind's blowing in and everybody's like, well, the Yankees aren't going to get hit home runs and blah, 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 right? But the Yankees are still a better team. So what I'm trying to get at is, let me get over here real quick. Oh, my goodness. When does that game start? I need to do a game real fast because the first game is 6:10. I don't know if we're going to have time to get into the first game. Holy crap. Well, the first game was the Milwaukee Brewers on the run line. So let's do that real fast. So you have Montas against Feltner. I guess I didn't realize it was 6:10. I thought it was 6:40. And you've got Milwaukee right now hitting the ball like crazy. The Milwaukee Brewers, let me get my numbers. There we go. The Milwaukee Brewers, they're scoring 6 runs a game, scored 42 runs in the last 7 games. They rank 10th in offensive WAR, but they're first in isolated power. That means a lot, when you're that way. And they have a offensive WAR with their guys stretched them out 8.2, and they're facing the Rockies today that don't hit. The Rockies are 28th in offense, 27th in isolated WAR. Zero guys that are 1 WAR or more. So offensively, they're struggling, and they got 6 guys with offensive WAR -1. So they got a big issue going on. Hey, Jay Barry, Brew Crew, that's right. Welcome in, Jay. Thanks for hitting me up with that. And so you've got an offensive WAR ranking of 8.2 for the hitters for Milwaukee Brewers, and they got 3 guys that are killing it. One's 6.6, 3.9, 3.0, and another one's at 1.9. So almost 4 guys over 2 WAR. They're just doing great. And then Colorado's got 0 guys. And then you got -1, -1.3, -1.4, -1.4, -1.7, -1.9, like minus. They're just pulling away. So they're -8.8. So it kind of combined, that's like a 17 WAR gap in offensive WAR. And then when you look at the starting pitchers, there's very few times I'm going to tell you that I like Frankie Montas. Very few times. But today's a good day. I mean, if you want to bet Frankie Montas, you should be betting him now. Over his last 3 starts, he's a game score 60. That's what aces do. His last time out was a 42, so that's kind of the offset below. So I expect him to have a good game. And his SOPS plus is a 59 right now, 41% better than an average pitcher, and he's facing Feltner. So you just told you that the offense for Milwaukee really good. Feltner 147 SOPS plus, so he's 47% worse than an average pitcher. And he's going to face an offense that's pretty good. So I tend to think that this is going to be one of those spots where Milwaukee continues to hit, and I think Montas continues to pitch pretty good. And there's a lot of striking out going on with Colorado right now. I don't think they're the only team. Let me look. The Colorado Rockies are the highest percentage of strikeouts in all of baseball right now. Strikeout percentage is 33.5. So every third guy is going to strike out. I mean, that's just bad. So it's hard to put balls in play if you swing and miss them. So I think, and if Montas pitches pretty good, and he's been pretty good at home for them. So I like this play in a sense that you got to play it on the run line. When I bet it was -1.5, -105, but when I looked before the show, it was -108, -110, depending on where you're at. So it's still good. Because the actual number is like 230, 240 or something. And I don't want to pay that. I just don't think that's a good number, but I think that -230 is okay, or the run line's okay. So sorry, that one was, holy crap, that was just dumb right off the top of the bat. When's the other game come on? Because I wanted to talk about the Cubs for a second. All right, so that one's a 7:10 game, so we got time for that one, and that one's an 8:15. Okay. As we're winding down these games, I keep talking about series bets, and we're going to have to get into that because one of the things you run into, and today's Friday, it's a great day to bet baseball. You got new matchups, new teams, new series, new everything. Books, they still don't know what to do after all these games, and you can find great value on lines. It gets a little sharper tomorrow, and then it's really sharp on Sunday, and then the whole thing starts over on Monday. So what you run into, though, is you're running into the haves and have-nots. You're running into the teams that are playing for something and the ones that aren't, right? That's what you're doing. And you're running into just rattling off the board, the Milwaukee Brewers are minus 240 or 250 depending. The Mets are minus 170. You got a minus 270 from the Phillies, minus 210 from San Diego, minus 165 from Baltimore, minus 280 in Boston, minus 160 in Texas. Minus 160 for the Detroit Tigers, minus 170 for the Atlanta Braves, minus 165. You run into like 3 games of 15 that kind of fit under that. Okay, I want to bet minus 145 or less, or plus one, whatever, or more, right? So you run into these problems. So you got to get creative, and you got to figure out how to bet these games. So just let me hit you with this thought. The New York Yankees opening number was minus 145. Minus 145. Judge played, right? Soto played. So the number when it went off at Circa was 114. And when it went off at Bookmaker was 117. So we'll call it 115. 30 points different. Why? I get it. There was wind blowing in. So Yankees aren't going to go hit home runs. So think about that for a minute, though. Your value is not betting Cubs. The value is going to be betting Yankees. So I said this, and Jeff says this all the time. It just rings true, especially in football and especially in basketball, because you get so tied up in a lot of stuff. Baseball, a little different. But when I make my number almost always is going to be more relevant to what the overnight opening number was than it is what the betting public in the supposed guys that know what they're doing when they make baseball bets do, when they move the numbers. This is just buying stuff on sale. And that's where you make your money in baseball is you don't go out and go, well, I'm betting I'm going to win this game. When you hear me handicap these games and talk about these games, I don't ever go, well, I have our score predictor thing, right? But I use the score predictor thing for totals. I don't use it to tell me who's going to win the game. And I look at it and go, this pitcher is going to be really good at limiting the opportunities for the other team to score. And my team that I want to bet on is going to have lots of opportunities to score. That's what I bet. I don't bet that the Yankees, in this case, are going to win that game. I'm going to bet the value in the odds that tell me that I can't pass up this spot because the Yankees should have been 145. And if you got money coming in on stuff, okay, great. Maybe it drops it to, I don't know, 140, 130 something, not 115. And then you go, there's all your value, and that's how you make money betting baseball. You bet where the value is. You don't bet because you're going to go and say, well, this team's going to beat that team. You have structure. I have structure in my built-in lines that tell me those things. That what are the odds of this team winning? And my numbers tell me that. So, for the example, in the Yankees game and the Cubs game, my number was minus 118. And when it came out at 145, I'm like, that's way too high for me. I can't get involved. And then it comes down to 115. All of a sudden, I got EV plus money to bet on the Yankees today. Baseball is so weird when it comes to how people bet, because the truth is you're just betting value, but you got to understand what your bet means too. So, for example, let's take a look. Like Baltimore today is minus 163 over Tampa Bay. My number says minus 181. So that's 3.8% EV positive. You make that bet 1,000 times, you should be a winner more often than you're not, right? So my concern with that is I don't want to pay 160 to find out. That's in my mind, that's not where the value is. So yes, there's value on still betting that game. And what did that game open? The game opened 135 and steamed up, right? So in this case, if you could have got it at 140 or one whatever, that's when you bet it. You don't bet it now at its peak. So a line a lot of times is going to reach a certain level and not get any higher. And if it does go higher, the value's already soaked out of it. So in football we talk about bumpers, meaning that if a game is I don't know, let's just say it's minus 2.5, and it gets bet to 3, and then all of a sudden it goes back down to 2.5 again. But it never gets to 2, because once it hits 2, it goes back up to 3. So you know what the line is, right? The bumpers are there. It's not really going to go past 3, and it's not really going to go below 2. So you got to make up your decision on what's the real number. And in baseball, it's not quite the same, but a little bit. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're in that 2.5 to 3 range on a football game, and you're betting the favorite, you better not bet minus 3. You don't bet it at the peak ever. You bet it at the best number you can below the peak number. And in this case, that would be minus 2.5. And there is no question that 2.5 is a huge different number than -3. The value from 2.5 to 3 on a favorite in football is it's at least 25-30%. You give up that value if you bet it at 3. And it's a similar problem if you are betting a favorite at 3.5 instead of 3, right? That 3 lands on the number 15% of the time. That's the most common number in football, 3. So that's a number that you either need to take, or if you're giving, you can't give it. You've got to give less than that. And you certainly don't want to, like if it's 3, okay, I'm going to give 3 instead of 3.5. That's better, right? Not a lot, but it's better. So in baseball, it's a similar scenario. It's going to be is know where those buffers are, know where the boundaries are, and if you're at we just said Baltimore's game was 135. Now it's all the way out to 160. Well, why would you pay 160? You shouldn't. My number says 181, so it still says it's a good number. But that doesn't mean you want to pay it at its peak number. You want to pay it at when it's 140 or 145. And then once it gets past that, it's like, okay, it's too far gone. So where's the other side? Where's the side that says I can't bet it and get value on betting on Baltimore, the favorite? Where's the number that says I can bet it on the other side and get the result back on the underdog? You can't. Not in baseball. And the reason is this. Where's my numbers? Here they are. All right. So if you are a -160 favorite, the probability is 61.5% you're going to win that game. So as an underdog, you're only going to win 39.5% of the time. So think about that. 39%, and that's at 160. So if you, and my number said 180, so let's just say it trickled up to 180. 180 is 64.3%. So now on the backside of that, to understand the value, 35.7% of the time, the underdog's going to win. Well, that's a pretty big number, 35. Only if you bet it every single time it happens. If you're not betting it every single time it happens, which most of us are not, but if you bet it every single time it happens, then that 35% rings true. If you bet it once in a while, you might lose every single time you bet it. And then there's no value in that bet at all. So when I'm betting an underdog, I don't want to bet an underdog at plus 130, hardly ever, because I don't make that bet that often. If you want to use the data and the numbers and the winning probabilities to your advantage, you have to do it every time. And because we don't do it every time, that skews those numbers. And then you can't expect to produce a result similar to that outcome if you don't do it every single time. So I don't mind underdogs that are plus 110, 115, 120, even 125s. I'm stopping in the 130, 140 range. I don't bet that very often at all. And that's because I don't bet it on a regular basis. I'm not taking that underdog that much. A 140 underdog, by the way, is like a minus 155 favorite, and then you're playing the underdog. I'm not doing that. I don't do that very often. You're not going to win that much, right? I mean, at 155, the winning probability is 60.8%. So 40% of the time, or 39.2% of the time, you're going to win that bet as an underdog. But that's only if you play it every single time. And when you don't play it all the time, you're going to have more losses than you are wins. When are you going to get your win? I don't know the answer to that question. So you have to be logical about how you use the underdog role. And the way I use the underdog role is I don't mind paying a favorite minus 150, 155, 160 if my number is much higher than that. And theoretically, I think that's great value. I'll still bet it. I am not taking the other side ever at all, only because I don't bet it like that. I don't bet that way. It takes too much for me to keep track of how many losses that I have to get the wins to get it back. But I don't mind a plus, if it's say a minus 125 favorite and I can get a dog at 115 or 110 or 120 or whatever it is, I think that's great value. So because I'll do that a lot. And that's more 50-50 roll than it is 30%, 35%, 40% of the time. You need to be 55% of the expectation to pull that underdog out. It's just the way I bet. And I think that people, when they bet these games, all you see on Twitter and all you see all these people do is, take all these big money line underdogs because they're going to win. And then when they do win, that's the first thing you see all these people do is blah, blah, blah. I just want all this money. Okay, great. But you didn't share with everybody how many times you bet that and lost, because you're going to lose it a ton of times. If you're taking say a minus, I don't know, what's the biggest one of the days? Like minus 280, right? Boston Red Sox days, minus 280, something in that neighborhood. If minus 280 is 73.7% of the time they're going to win. So that's 26% they're not going to win. So if you want to bet on the underdog, you're going to theoretically 1 out of 4 times you're going to win that bet. But you're not going to win that bet that 1 out of 4 times if you don't bet it every time. Because the games have a lot of those and you're not betting them, and the skewed odds don't give you the availability to get that number. So it's actually less than that. So it's not worth doing that unless you have some weird thing that about that game that nobody else does, and it's tremendous value at that number. So anyway, always look for the value, and that's how you're going to bet these games. So let me scroll this down. Here we go. So for example, Yankees. And let me pull up a different thing just so that we can talk about this in a better way. So we're going to talk about series prices for a second. Roster resource, New York Yankees. Come on. There you go. So the Yankees and the Cubs, they're playing a series, and it starts today. And we have, holy crap! All right, so we have. A Cubs team that is a little over 500, trying to get into playoffs. The Yankees are trying to win the American League East. So quality baseball, basically, from two teams. And today's game was minus 145, ended up minus 115 for the Yankees. So when I pull up the number for the series price, come here. Oh, that's why it's over here. There we go. So the series price is New York Yankees at bookmaker minus 145. So they just got to win the series, and today's Friday, right? So they've won one. So then you got Saturday and Sunday. They got to win one of the next 2 games, and they win the series. Well, who's pitching? So that's what you got to look at is who's pitching in these games. So tomorrow, Clark Schmidt is pitching. Now, he hasn't pitched in a long time. He's been hurt. But he's a good pitcher. And he's going to pitch tomorrow against Assad. So who's really going to be favored in that game? Well, the Yankees will be favored again in that game. And then on Sunday, you got Garrett Cole pitching against Jameson Taillon. And again, Garrett Cole's going to be the favorite. So if you didn't want to worry about the Yankees every day, you just play them minus the 145 and be done with it. And go, okay, they're going to win 2 out of 3 of these games. And theoretically, looking at kind of how that's going to work out, I think they will. I think they'll win 2 out of 3 of those games. So then that becomes a bet. right? Of course, the odds are going to change a little bit now since they won the first game. So now it's going to be a lot higher number for you to have to try to get in on. Let's see, what's another one? So the Milwaukee Brewers are minus 400 to win the series. So I'm not going to bet that. The Baltimore Orioles are minus 190 to win the series. And you got to look at that, right? Because these are the spots where you can go and say, does the underdog have any kind of chance? And with the way the Rays have been playing and the way the Orioles have been playing, they're both by kind of 500-ish. The Rays a little bit below that. I can tell you exactly where they are. The Rays have been 10-10 in their last 20 games, and the Orioles 10-10 last 20 games. 4-6 for the Rays in the last 10 games, 5-5. So, like I said, 500-ish. And then you got to go and say, well, do the Rays actually have any quality pitching going on? Is it worth, maybe a shot here? Because theoretically they could win today. I mean, I'm not sold on the idea that Kramer's this best great pitcher and Shane Baz is starting to get his stuff together since he came off the disabled list. So Tampa Bay, there we go. So Tampa Bay is starting today. Shane Baz. Tomorrow, Ryan Pepio goes against Zach Eflin. Pretty good matchup. And then on Sunday, Zach Lytle goes against that Corbin Burns. So Corbin Burns is going to be a big favorite. I would expect that Eflin's going to be a decent favorite. And surprisingly, Kramer was a pretty big favorite today. So you got a big number there. But I think that if Pepio is on, they got a shot. The Rays wanting to do well against a former pitcher, maybe that's a spot that you go and say, maybe the Rays to win this series is a spot. So we'll look at some of that stuff as we go along. I don't think that's the greatest spot. Boston's minus 400 against the White Sox. So here's a great spot. The New York Mets are playing the Cincinnati Reds, and that was going to be that's going to be another game I'm going to talk about. Sean Manaea. So if you guys aren't familiar with what Sean Manaea has done, Sean Manaea has made 27 starts so far for the Mets, and they're only going to make 32 starts, 33 starts. So they only got 5 more to go. In those 27 starts, the New York Mets are 19-8. 19-8. Just to give you an idea of how valuable that is. So 19-8, right? 11 games over 500. Zach Wheeler pitches today, right? Zach Wheeler has made 27 starts. The Phillies are 16-11 in his starts. I would tell you that Zach Wheeler is a better pitcher than Sean Manaea. Data shows you that. But value to the team and value to wins and value to what's going on, there is hardly any pitcher more valuable than what Sean Manaea is doing. And Sean Manaea is on, and he and the other guy, Peterson, have done amazing things for that pitching staff to keep the Mets where they are. I mean, it's amazing. So today, the Reds are throwing Cruz, so he's an opener. And I don't think it's Martinez because he's been pitching, so I think it's going to be a bullpen game. So I like the Mets today to beat the Reds bullpen, the way I lined it out against the Reds bullpen. But I have the New York Mets minus 188. And I think the number 4 I looked at, it was 164. But what's interesting is, say you don't want to pay 164, which I don't want to pay, but I think they beat them pretty good. The Reds, for example, the Reds over the last 20 games are 8-12, 4 games below 500, 5-5 in the last 10 games. The Mets, on the other side, they're 14-6 in the last 20 games, and they're 8-2 in the last 10. And Manaea is 58 SOPS plus, so he's 42% better than an average pitcher in the last 28 days. I think he goes out. I think he controls the Reds offense, and the Reds offense. I was a little bit disappointed in what the Mets offense was, but the Reds offense is 16th, but 21st in isolated power. And then you look at what the Mets are; they're 14th and 14th in isolated power. So they're not like killing it, but Lindor is. And he's the guy that has to be killing it for them because he's the guy that stirs the bus for them, stirs the drink, drives the bus. So I looked at this, and then my score predictor came out, and it was a number that said, hey, the Cincinnati bullpen's not any good either. So they're going to score 7 runs today, the Mets. 7-3. Okay. I can play the run line with the Mets and Sean Manaea against the Reds bullpen, and it's -1.5 plus 120. Give me that. Give me that. I'll take that as opposed to having to pay -160 or whatever. And I get it. I might lose by that half of that one run, but I'm not worried about run lines. When you have offenses that produce the way they do, and then you look at and you vet it, right? So I've already gone down here, and I'm like, okay, show me the Mets bullpen. Mets bullpen. The last 2 weeks, they've thrown 36.2 innings. Not very many innings. So that means their starters are going deep. I would expect Manaea to pitch deep today. And then you're looking at 21 hits allowed. That's it. 36 innings, 21 hits allowed. Only 15 walks in 36 innings. That's really good. And 3 home runs. Okay. And then I looked at the Reds, and they're 67 innings, almost double the more innings. So their starters aren't going very far. And again, today they don't even have one. And then 69 hits, 15 homers. Give me the Mets. Give me the Mets to cover the 1.5 and that plus money. So am I taking a dog? Sort of. I'm taking a favorite to cover a run number that I think they're going to cover comfortably anyway. And I think this is the way sometimes you can find additional value and or find value in a game that, especially this time of year, that you got to figure out, how do I bet baseball? I mean, baseball's still every day, guys. There's 15 games every single day. And the hardest part about baseball right now, and the one thing I'll tell you is, even when you dig deep, don't wear yourself out to dig deep, right? Meaning that, look, don't make something that isn't there, because I've done that. I've probably done that some this year, but the point being is you're looking at stuff, trying to find a play, trying to find a bet, working. You're looking at, okay, I'm going to bet this team total, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to, whatever you're doing. And then you go, yeah, there it is. And then you bet it, and then it's like, holy shit, that was the wrong thing, right? So, and it's because you went and tried to manufacture something as opposed to just letting the data absorb and then digesting it and regurgitating it in a way that it makes sense. So think of it this way. If you're reading a book and it's a story, some kind of a story book, right? You need to have a beginning that makes sense. You need to have a middle of the book that's kind of like drama and keeps your attention and all that stuff. And then at the end of the book, it's got some kind of wrap to it or moral to the story, and you're like, oh, that was a great book. If you can't make your bet like reading a story that makes sense, then don't make your bet. It needs to be able to roll out and you be able to talk about it kind of the way I do here on these shows and go, this is what I think is going to happen, and this is why, and blah, 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 blah. And this is the middle of the story, and this is the end, and this is how it goes. And it makes sense, right? Because if you can't regurgitate a story out of your bet, what ends up happening is you've kind of looked at data and using certain data points to make a point to a bet, but you didn't make the whole bet encapsulate the storyline of the premise of your bet. So for example, in a football game, you might think that this wide receiver is going to catch 8 passes for 115 yards. Great day. And you bet on them to win the game, whatever it is. But what you didn't account for was your story didn't account for the offensive line that can't block the defensive line, so the quarterback can't throw the ball to that guy because he doesn't have enough time, right? So your story can't just be about one aspect. It has to encompass the entire thing. And it's the same way in baseball. So the way it works in baseball is think of it in 3 inning segments. So segment A is going to be inning 1, 2, and 3. And then the first 3 innings, how do I look? What's my pitcher going to be like? Does my offense stand a chance? Am I going to have the ability to score runs? Am I going to have opportunities to score runs? Is the other team going to have opportunities to score runs? And then the key is the next 3 innings, 4, 5, and 6. When are we going to pull my pitcher? Is the bullpen going to come in the 6th inning or the 7th inning? Is my pitcher going to wear out? Is my offense going to still be second or third time through? What does that kind of look like? And then your last 3 innings, 7, 8, 9. What do I have pitching then? Because my starter's not in the game no more. What's it going to look like? What are my hitters going to be facing? Because that starter's not going to be in either. So what's their bullpen look like? And then as you're creating that story, now you have 3 chapters. You got the opening first 3 innings, you got the middle 3 innings, and you got the back end 3 innings. And as long as you're kind of encapsulating a story that makes sense throughout all of that, even though there might be a time where you sit there and go, well, this is going to be kind of the rough time. I gotta kind of get it through. But once we get past this part, the back end is pretty good. The story's going to get great. Then you can still make your bets. The bet has to make sense at the end when the story comes up, and then you go, oh, that's a great story. I like that book, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting at, and that's the same thing for baseball, football, basketball. It doesn't matter, whatever you're betting. All of that has to be that way. Otherwise, if there's a lot of things in there that don't add up, don't make sense, you'll catch yourself. And when you catch yourself, that's when you sit there and you go, that don't make no damn sense. I'm not going to do that. I know I was thinking this way, but holy shit, a good thing I try to put this story together because it doesn't add up. The storyline isn't complete. It's not a good story. And if it's not a good story, it's certainly not a good bet. Hopefully that sort of, I don't know if that relation works or not works, but it's kind of how I describe it. To make it so that you see a different aspect of how betting should really feel and really should look. So I like the Brewers, right? -the 1.5. I also like the Mets -the 1.5. And the only other spot that I found today that I thought was interesting was the Seattle Mariners. And I get it, right? I bet on Seattle a lot, and they're just a frustrating team to bet on. But my numbers suggest they should be bet on a lot. They got great pitchers, so a lot of times they're in all these games. They just need some offense. So Seattle, right now, currently, in the last 7 days, they are the number 2 offense in baseball. Well, holy shit, that's the time to bet them when they're hitting. So they're number 2 in offense. They're scoring 6-point runs a game. The Seattle Mariners. Okay, sign me up. They are 8th in isolated power, so a little bit down, but they have 5 guys hitting, only 2 guys pulling away. This isn't normal for them. They're normally way bad, down in the 27, 28, 25 range on offense, not scoring very many runs. And they're facing today a St. Louis team and Eric Fetty. Now, Fetty's an interesting cat because he's got good metrics, and he's actually got a good WAR number. 3, I think, is his number. But what's interesting about Fetty is he's not a strikeout guy. He's an in-play guy. I gotta put the ball in the right space, and the team that I'm facing has to hit it to my fielders. I don't like to bet on guys like that because then the offense has all kinds of opportunities. They're putting the ball in play. I want a ball in play advantage. Okay, well, Miller's pitching for Seattle, and Seattle, Miller, he is an SOPS plus 50. He's 50% better than an average pitcher right now at controlling the opponent's offense. Sign me up, right? He is dynamite right now. He's a much better home pitcher, I will say that. He at home is one of those spots where he's just sits there and go, okay, I'm betting him. But I do like the idea that I can get a strikeout pitcher, not a big strikeout pitcher, but a strikeout pitcher nonetheless, with the number 2 offense in baseball against a guy who's a ball and play pitcher. And it's a pick 'em. Earlier in the day, it was minus 105. Now it's minus 110. So my number on the game is kind of the same area. It's 109, 108 for Seattle. I think Seattle is the right side. And when I pulled up the offense for St. Louis is the middle of the pack. They're 15th in offense. They've been doing fairly well lately, but that's because Goldschmidt was carrying them. Now Goldschmidt's kind of fallen back a little bit, and as he falls down a little bit, they don't have another second guy driving the bus. So I like the idea that when I spread these out, and this is why I do this, when I look at all the hitters in the last week, and I look at them from a standard of you got to have 10 at-bats, which is basically 2-3 games. I don't want to see a guy and put him in there that's not a starter, a regular player. And I look at their offensive WAR numbers, and I delete anything in between. So if you're a 1 WAR or above offensive WAR performer, you get on the board. If you're a -1 offensive WAR performer or more, you get on the board. Anything in the middle, which is ±0 something, okay, you don't get on the board. I don't care what you guys do, right? You're a little bit not doing anything other than, just being there. So the guys that are making things happen for Seattle, Seattle has a 10.3 offensive WAR for their 10 guys, or however many guys it turns out to be. In this case, 7 guys that qualify for that spot. The St. Louis Cardinals have 9 guys. Now, what does that tell you? They have 9 guys that qualify for that spot. Typically means that they're not doing a lot of substitutions, and they got the same guys in there no matter what. The lineups are pretty stale. That doesn't mean that they're good, bad, or indifferent. It just means that those same players are playing all the time. They're at 0.2 offensive WAR. Those 9, 10 guys, whatever, 0.2, and you got a 10.3 for Seattle. Well, that's a big edge when you're talking about offensive performance, and you got 10 WAR offensive WAR advantage. Now, I've done this before, and sometimes I forget. I probably haven't said it in a while. Offensive WAR is different than WAR. Okay, WAR is wins above replacement. Replacement is a call-up player from AAA. Whatever that looks like, that's a call-up player. That's the level of what a replacement player is. So WAR is wins above. So this guy's playing above a call-up guy from AAA. He's worth X number of wins to the team more than that AAA guy is. That's what WAR does. So then you're able to take a player and compare them to another player on another team in terms of the values they have to wins. And as gamblers, we only care who wins. I don't care what their batting average is. I don't care how many RBIs they got. I care about how they win. So WAR is a pretty big number. Now, WAR in itself takes two factors. Offensive WAR, OFF, WAR, offensive WAR, and defensive WAR, and it creates a WAR number. What I do is when I'm looking at these offensive metrics, I don't give a shit what the defense numbers are. Excuse my language. I don't care what the defensive numbers are. So I isolate that out, and all I'm using is offensive WAR numbers. So when you hear me say offensive WAR, that's what I mean. I'm just using the offensive WAR numbers. I'm not using weighted runs created plus. I'm not using any of these other stuff. Hey, Brian, thank you. It says, happy birthday tomorrow. Yes, it is. My birthday is tomorrow, and you know what? I'll probably be grayer tomorrow, I would imagine. I don't know. Maybe not. But thank you. I much appreciate that. That's great. So as things go and as we're looking at this stuff, I want to make sure that I'm very clear on sometimes I get talking about stuff and I forget that, maybe I need to clarify certain things, because even over all these years, I've talked to Jeff and talked to other people sometimes that are in my circles. I talk about certain things and I sit there and think they know what I'm talking about. And it's like a different language, and I get it. Sabermetrics and stuff is, I think it's the greatest thing in the world. It's the greatest thing in the world for baseball. And I get it. Some guys sit there and go, well, that's what's ruined the sport and all this other stuff, because there's no batting averages. There's no, all this other stuff. But let me explain it to you this way. StatCast, right? Some of you guys are all into StatCast. I hate it. And I use it to a degree, but I don't like it. And here's why I don't like it. I don't like StatCast because StatCast is an assumption. It's an assumption based off of the velocity a ball is hit off a bat, where the bat is hit in the barrel of it, what the launch angle is, the velocity in which, a guy throws, or all kinds of, it's all based off of assumed things that happen based off of the events of the game. So Sabermetrics is built to answer specific questions. And when you're gambling on these games, there's certain things that you sit there and go, what's an offense trying to do? Well, we've talked about this all summer. An offense isn't out there trying to get a guy on, move him over, and work their ass off to score that one run. That's not what they're doing, right? They want to do damage from the very first guy, and if they get a guy on, they're trying to hit a 2-run home run and score squiggle lines. They don't want ones. They want 2s and 3s. So they're trying to do damage. So I can get a measure of that through Sabermetrics. I can get a measure of what an offense is trying to do and how good they are at it through isolated power. That's what it is. That's what it measures. The damage that they do. Perfect. That's perfect, right? Now, on the other side of that, I can sit there and go, well, if this is what the offense is trying to do, how can I look at a pitcher and see if that pitcher can do against what that offense is trying to do? Well, that's what fielding independent pitching is. Strikeouts, walks, home runs. That's it. That's what it measures. Strikeouts, home runs, and walks. The 3 true outcomes of baseball. So then I go, well, that's all great. Tells me what they've done in the past. Tell me what they're going to do in the future. All right. Based off of how they've pitched, there's an X that goes in front of it called XFIP. XFIP is the predictive measure of FIP. It tells me over the next couple of starts, this is what it's going to look like. How much more can I ask for that I get specific answers to those questions that you need to ask? So that's why I use Sabermetrics. Sabermetrics It's all data related. It's all based off of things that actually happen in the game, not assumed things that happen in a game. That's why I don't like StatCast. StatCast has X average and X WOBA and X this and X that, all based off of basically how the ball comes off the bat and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I can look at it and I've tried to use it. I've tried to deal with it, and it's just not the same. I still use XWOBA some, but I don't get into it too much. But so in lieu of today, and in lieu of the games today, that's really all I got. I got 3 games. I don't know how we're doing. That other game started already. Hopefully we're doing halfway decent. I haven't seen. Well, that's a football game. All right, so it looks like Milwaukee scored at least 1. So there we go. We need Milwaukee to score at least another one. So, guys, if you have questions on this stuff, the best thing that I can tell you is I'm not. Let's say it this way: I'm not a data nerd to the point in which I create my own data that way. In other words, create my own stats. I know what this stuff is. I know what it means. And I know how to use it. And I know how to use it towards gambling. So I'm not like one of these guys that you're gonna see that there's a baseball guy that's a baseball nerd guy that's all they talk about is batting averages and this and that and the other stuff. So ask questions, whatever you want, and I'll relate it to gambling. That's what I do. That's kind of a unique skill that makes some of this unique. Like, we got 170 people on this show right now, and the reality becomes is they're on here because what I say and kind of how I do stuff, it's different. It's not the same as what everybody else breaks down. It's not what you hear a lot. Now we're going to get into football, so it's still a little bit early for me to introduce and bring on some of my metrics and all the different stuff that I have for football. But it's the same kind of stuff. It's all sabermetric related. I talk EPA, and I'll be doing a lot of that kind of stuff, and talk echo rate, and talk field position. We talk about offense versus defense, and and all that kind of stuff, and where the advantages are, and so forth. One of the skills that I've learned is I spend a lot of time in baseball all summer. So when it comes to trying to go and understand, let me pull this up for 1 second so that you'll understand what I'm talking about. I don't need that anymore. Go here. Where is it? There we go. We're going to go there. So we're going to go to BYU SMU today. All right. So BYU plays SMU today. So because I do all this baseball work, 30 teams every day, all the time, I don't go watch all the college stuff prior to the season. I take shortcuts. So I use Brad Powers as a shortcut. He's a gambler. He gambles. I get it. He does some content creation and stuff, and he's on tons of shows. But he watches the video. He watches the film. He's a talent evaluator. He'll know that the skill sets of the players. So I let him do that for me. So all I have to do is I have to go get that information from him. So I'll listen to breakdowns that he provides. That doesn't mean I bet with him or against him. It just means I get an understanding of certain things. And then there's a spot. It's called collegefootballinsiders.com. That's a new thing. It's not new in terms of the stuff that's on here. I've seen it many times. I've used it for years. But this is sabermetrics for college football. So in this game between BYU SMU, for example, what they do is they can break down EPA margin. Okay, now EPA, what is EPA? EPA is extra points added. So if you're on a football field and you have, let's just say it is 2nd down and 7 to go, and you gain 3 yards, so it makes it 3rd and 4. So your expected points average is based on that gain of 4 yards or 3 yards, whatever I said, is going to be better than it was before by a certain number. But what if you, instead of gaining that amount of yards, it was 2nd and 7 and you gained 8 and got a 1st down? Well, your EPA, expected point average, is going to be much higher, right? Because not only did you gain yardage, you got closer to the goal line and you got a 1st down. So every single play gets graded in a way where you're moving towards a 1st down or towards a touchdown, and you get value for being successful or not. And obviously, if you're on defense, you want negative EPA because you want them going away from 1st downs and away from touchdowns, goal lines. And if you're on offense, you want to try to achieve those things. So EPA is about extra points added throughout a game based on every single play ran and what that play outcome becomes. Hopefully that's a good way to describe it and you understand what I'm saying. So you're going to have offense EPA and defense EPA. Offense EPA should be positive, right? They're moving forward. They're moving towards goal lines and 1st downs. And defense should be negative because they're holding them from. So EPA margin is what's my total between the two. And SMU, for example, is 0.048 EPA. Doesn't matter. You really want to know what the rank is. Don't look at the number. But 0.48, they rank 43rd in the country in EPA margin. They're playing a team in BYU that's minus 0.39. That's not good. Anytime you're minus, that's not good. Because that means that your offense isn't doing enough to generate a positive outcome. That's not going anywhere. So they rank 85th. There are 133 college football teams. So when you see these numbers, you got to go, hey, that team's 43rd out of 133. That team's 85th. Well, what's really cool is it gets matched up and it says, okay, I can see BYU's offense against SMU's defense, rushing, throwing, right? I can see it by field position. I can see it by early downs, success rates. I can see all that stuff. And that gives you a solid breakdown of how a team will be able to move the football against the defense that they're going to face. The reason that I'm not sitting here and wanting to go over all this stuff in a dramatic way, in a big breakdown, doing all this stuff, is because they played one game. So we're gonna wait until there's at least 2 or 3 games in here. Then we're gonna start using some of this, and we'll be breaking games down this way, and talking about them this way as opposed to certain other things. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that college football is going to be broke down into a lot of other things. Now, in the NFL, when I do the NFL, a lot of times I use DVOA as opposed to EPA. I like EPA for college football. I like DVOA for the NFL. So we'll break all that stuff down and we'll talk about that stuff a little later. But so spots, right? So where's my book? I think I told you guys this before. Maybe it was yesterday. I've bet 1, 2, 3, 4. I've bet 5 football games for college football already. I'm waiting on some numbers some other stuff. But so here's some of the stuff I've already bet, and some of the stuff is still available. Some of it's not available. So let me pull up the numbers as we're doing this, so I can see what's available and what's not. One of these games I wanted to share with you on that metric that we were just talking about with EPA and stuff. That was loud. All right, so I want to go to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, yeah, okay. So I bet Oklahoma State at -7 and gave it out to my guys at -7 earlier in the week. So that leads to another problem with football. I shouldn't say a problem. It's not a problem. When you're betting football, you got to have an idea of what you want to do before you go start betting. So if you're just now looking to bet the college football for this weekend, you're going to miss opportunities. Like I bet Oklahoma State -7. Right now, the number's -9.5. So if I can bet it at -7, I'm certainly not going to bet it at -9.5, even though -9.5 is better than -10. Right? So that one is probably not going to be where you want to go. And I can see there's -10s out there too. So you're probably not going to be able to go there. Now, one game that I did bet that I think is still available is, let's see, here we go. Yeah, you might even be able to get a better number than I did. I bet Baylor plus 14.5. And I can see there's 14.5 still out there. It's 15.5 at some places, or Circus got it at 15.5, 15 at Superbook. Everybody else is 14.5. The original number was 17. I didn't catch it at 17, but I did catch it. At 14.5. 14 obviously being the key number. And if we were to go and look at this, and let's go, we're going to pull this up in that College Football Outsiders numbers, and sort of give you Now, I will say that College Football Outsiders, their breakdowns do have predicted scores. I would tell you that you would be remiss if you used those predicted scores for your betting. They're not very good, the predicted scores. What's good is the data. The data is good, right? So you're looking at, like in this game, they got Baylor to score 20 points and Utah to score 33 points, 34 points, 33 points. So they're looking at 13. And everything I've read, everything I've seen, Baylor is a team that is much improved. They are much better than they were a year ago. The head coach has turned the program back around again, and they're a team on the come. And not that Utah is not a good football team, but I think that there's an overvaluing here to Utah. And, I know they're predicted to win the Big 12, but not so much over, say, Kansas State or Oklahoma State, that those two teams wouldn't necessarily give them a big run for their money. So I like the idea that you can take a team like Baylor, go in there, get more than 2 touchdowns, and then say, okay, well, if you beat them, you beat them. And especially early in the season like this, I think that's a good spot. So that's why I bet Baylor. The other one that I wanted to share was Oregon State. Let me find Oregon State because this is important. Oregon State plays San Diego State. The number is 6. The number was 6. I think it still is. Let me make sure. I don't want to give you guys stale stuff. Oregon State, yeah, still 6. It originally was 3.5. So think about this: 3.5 to 4. 4 is a key number. It went through 4, went through 5. Now it's on 6. 6 is going to be the peak. So if you're going to bet 6, bet 6. Don't bet 7. That's just the wrong thing to do. Because if it gets to 7, you bet the other side. But 6, they play San Diego State. The reason that I'm betting this is twofold. One, I'm going to use Brad Powers for a second here. In a breakdown that he talked about in this game, he also evidently has the time to go watch every one of these games. I get it. You can watch and break down the box scores of every game, and you can watch the 20-minute version of the game, and he does that, right? And that great for him. And I just don't have the time to do the baseball and to do that and to do the. I would be nonstop doing this stuff, and I am, but at the same time I'm not. I take a break, man. Shit, I'm old. So as he does these things, I let him do that work for me. And then a comment that he made was, Oregon State is much bigger on the offensive line and the defensive line than San Diego State. And his comment was, San Diego State played a team last week that was an FCS school, and they scored a whole bunch of points. It was one of the worst FCS teams you could play. So they're getting credit for being good when they're not. And he said, Oregon State, player-wise, man for man, offensive lineman to defensive lineman to offensive lineman, they're so much bigger, they're going to push them all over the place. So I'm like, okay, let me go vet that. So I'm looking at these numbers, and I'm looking at Oregon State. In Oregon State, EPA margins 14th in the country right now, 14th out of 133 schools. And San Diego State, 111th. All right, so I get it. I get it 100%. How reliable is this after one game? Probably not a lot. But there's some sense to context when a guy who studies all these teams comes on and says, hey, this team's much bigger, much stronger. It's going to push these guys all over the place. And then you look at it and you go, holy shit, this team's 14th at moving the football and stopping teams from moving the football. And the other team is 111th. And at line 6, give me that. Right? So Oregon State on offense, EPA per rush, 13th, going against the 127th ranked defense. There's 133 schools. So 127th out of 133 is you're trying to achieve the wrong way. It's the wrong way. The other team's trying to do it the right way. They got 13 out of 133. They should be able to run all over them. And then EPA per dropback pass, Oregon State 14th, San Diego State 119th. They can't defend the pass or the run. 6 points. I think that that's where you sit there and you go, And then when San Diego State has the ball, they're 88th rushing and 114th passing against 45th and 20th. And then as they've combined all these things and all these metrics to make a score, they have San Diego State scoring 17 points somehow, and Oregon State scoring 36 points. That makes sense to me. You see the dominance here. So there's more stuff in here than what I'm sharing with you. I'm going to go over those things in the next coming weeks and have stuff a little better laid out and a little better designed to go over so that you see a little bit more of what I'm doing. And we'll probably be breaking some of these down when I bet them, as opposed to I'm giving you, hey, I played Oregon State -6. You can play that. I gave out Oregon State -7 several days ago, but now it's -9.5. Can't play that. Well, why are we even bringing it? So we're going to do a little bit of that. Now, tonight's NFL game, I think, is an interesting football game. So you have two new defensive coordinators for these teams. The defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers comes in. He's actually from college, but he's going to be a very aggressive, come after you. I'm going to do we're going to do man coverages in the backside, but we're coming after you guy, which wasn't what Green Bay was last year. And typically that kind of format defenders love to play, but there's mistakes made. So I'm not expecting Green Bay's defense to be great tonight. I also think that Vic Fangio's defense going into Philadelphia it's a complicated defense. Me being here in Tampa and hearing a lot of stuff from Miami where he came from, the implementation of his defense is more than 1 week to get it right. So I think you're going to see some mistakes made there too. So that creates potential for the offenses to do well. Then you look at it and you go, who's the offenses? You got Jordan Love and a bunch of good wide receivers, and they got the running back from Oakland and Las Vegas, and they're going to be good on offense. And then you got the Eagles, who they're going to be good on offense too. So you got two good offenses against defenses that could eventually be good by the end, and probably will be good by the end, but I don't think they're going to be good right up front. The number that I betted at was 48.5. I think the last time I saw it, it was 49. What is it now? I'm going to tell you that you're good to bet this game. Let's go to where? Oh, that's college football. Let me go to the NFL. There we go. The NFL. It's 49.5 or 49 maybe at some places. It's going to go to 50. So if you can get over 49.5, take it. It's going to go over that number. So here in Florida, I'm able to bet at the Hard Rock. It's the only place I can bet legally. I've got a local guy that I book at, and there's a new place. It's called Profit Exchange. It's a betting exchange that I can get into living in Florida. They verified my location. I think it's great. So I don't know if you guys have used exchanges before, but theoretically they're putting lines and odds out there that aren't necessarily 100% available everywhere, and you can get some good stuff. I've been betting in there for the last 2 weeks, betting a lot, and the way the exchange works is they offer a price. You go and say, I want to bet it. They will either fully back that or partially back that until it gets backed later, because they need stuff on the other side. So they make their money based off of the big in between. That's all they're doing. They're not a sports book. It's a betting exchange. So theoretically, you're betting one side. You got you need money coming in on the other side so that you can get this action. But I've been betting there too. Profit Exchange. I would recommend, if you have it available to you, it's a good place to go. It's a nationwide thing now. It's kind of like Scott's Trade, right? If you have the ability to bet at Scott's Trade Exchange, that's another place to bet. So anyway, what I was going to say is I've bet enough where I'm getting all these boosts and all these crazy things from Hard Rock all the time as you move up in their tier rankings of being a qualified good customer and betting or whatever. They give you things. So they gave me a 30% profit boost to do a same game parlay. And I'm not big into that kind of stuff. But I thought, you know what? Let me just kind of manipulate something and put something together here. And what I did for that was Green Bay, I think, is the right side. I actually think Green Bay can win this game. I don't like the number as it stands right now. It's already down to 1.5. I was waiting on it to get to 3, never did. But in this same game parlay, I got it at 3.5. So I'm on Green Bay at 3.5, over 47.5, and team total Green Bay over 23.5. That's what I bet. It's plus 175. And then I get 30% bonus on top of that. So I'm like, let's just see what happens. So just food for thought. I'm just kind of giving you a heads up of some of the things that I bet. And then just to give you, because today's Friday, I'll give you what I bet in the NFL now. So if it's available, you can take it. Obviously, I bet Kansas City yesterday, minus 2.5, win by the toe, right? I bet the Indianapolis Colts plus the 3. And I bet Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus the 3. I'm going to bet, and haven't bet yet, 2 other games, and maybe it's only going to be 1 other game. We'll see how the numbers come out. I want to bet the Dallas Cowboys plus 3, but I don't think it's ever going to get there. If it doesn't get there, I will bet them at 2.5. I think they're going to beat the Browns outright. So I'm going to take Dallas plus the number, and I'm going to bet. I want to bet the Detroit Lions, but I don't want to pay 4.5. I want it to be 4 or less. So I think the Detroit Lions are gonna mess up the Rams, and I'm very confused on what to do with the Jets game because I don't like the Jets as well as everybody else does, and I've always been high on the 49ers, and I think the 49ers are going to cover that number. So I'm going to wait on that one. So the bets that I have out is I've got Philadelphia Green Bay over 48.5, and then I've got that parlay thing I told you about, and I've got the Buccaneers minus 3, and I've got the Colts plus 3. I'm waiting to get Dallas if I can get them, and if it, that number is bouncing around, I don't know that it's going to get to 3, so I might have to just take them at 2.5. I probably will. Take Dallas at 2.5. I like Seattle, but not at the price point to where they are. I'm not going to go there. 5.5 is a dead number, and it moved to 6. If it was 5.5, and it moved to 4, great. I was going to take him at that number, but as it moves up, I'm not going to do that. So I don't have any other action in the NFL. Like, I'm not going to bet Minnesota as an away favorite. I'm not doing that. I thought about, and I might do this. So we'll see. So on Sundays is when I like to bet teasers. And I'll do NFL teasers, only qualified Wong teasers. Hopefully you guys know what that means. If you don't know what that means, I'm just going to pull up. I put it in my website yesterday, and it's just faster for me to get it there than it is to pull it out of the file that I have. So a qualified Wong teaser. Now Wong is W-O-N-G, Wong, and that's just the guy who created it. So it's named after him. So they're EV plus wagers. That's why they're great. But they have rules, and they're strict rules. And the first rule is it's either a 6-point teaser or a 6.5-point teaser, nothing more. You can't do 7, you can't do 8, you can't do 10, you can't do all the other. That's it, 6, 6.5. And the first qualification is the total of the NFL game has to be 49 points or less. If it's 49.5 or 50, it's disqualified. The reason is low total. So that 6.5 comes into play more. If it's a total of 52, there's going to be a lot of scoring. 6.5 doesn't mean as much. So that's number one. Number two you don't bet away favorites in this at all. So if it's an away favorite, it's disqualified. Period. No away favorites qualify for a long teaser. And you're going to hear people all the time talking about, oh, this is a teaser qualifying. If it's an away favorite, it doesn't qualify. So now it's the numbers. So home favorites. Home favorites, you need 7.5, 8, 8.5, or 9. Those 4 numbers. 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9. You're going to tease those down. So why do you do that? So let's just say you've got 7.5. You're going to tease it down 6 or 6.5, right? So you're going to end up with -1 or -1.5. So think about what you just did. Where's the key numbers? Key number is 7 and 3. You teased it down beyond 2 sets of key numbers. That's what you do with long teasers. You're moving them beyond 2 sets of key numbers. So 9, 8.5, 8, 7, tease them down. And then so you should be good. So the big thing here is, what if you have 6 and you're going to do a 6.5 point teaser? You're going to that means you're going to go through 0 and get a half. That disqualifies the long teaser. Never cross 0. So it has to stay above 0. Has to. All right. Home dogs of 1, 1.5, 2, or 2.5, you tease these up. And again, if you're getting 1 point as a home dog, and then you add 6, now you're at 7. My suggestion in that case is you want to do 6.5 to get it to 7.5, because a lot of these teasers, if you land on 7 and it's 7, you lose. So make sure that you understand your teaser rules at the site you bet at, because with a parlay, teasers that tie just gets knocked out. Okay, well, it becomes a different, instead of 3 legs, it's now 2 legs. It's not the way it works with teasers. Teasers typically, if you tie, you lose. So just make sure your book, the rules. But home dog, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, you tease those up. Away dog, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, tease those up. And as long as they're in at 49 or below and they hit those numbers, you're good to go. Away favorite, never touch it. And then I do those on Sundays, usually Sunday mornings. I'll bet those. You want to wait and bet your teasers as close to kickoffs as you can, because the numbers change and the variables change, and your opportunities either become better or worse. So that's kind of how that works. All right, guys, that's all I got for you for tonight. Hopefully we make a little bit of money, and hopefully we get some stuff. Hopefully you guys learn some stuff. Look, we got 200 people on here. It's great. Great night for football. It's a great night for baseball. Tomorrow is Saturday. I may or may not be on. I haven't been on the last 2 Saturdays. I don't mind to be on. I just have to have something to talk about. These baseball games have been so hard to actually have a show with. But if I'm on, I'll be on early. College football starts at noon. So, maybe I'll have some college football and stuff. But when I come on, I'll probably be on by 10:30 or 11, so we can break some of that stuff down, get into some baseball games and stuff like that. And then Sunday, the games are obviously 1 o'clock. Major League Baseball is 1 o'clock. So I'll probably be on, 11:30 to 12 on Sunday. All right, guys, I appreciate you coming in. Do me these big favors, would you please? They really help. If you retweet the show, like the show, subscribe to the channels, we get the volume we're looking for in terms of viewership. Go to my website, sign up to be a client if you like. It's just $100, but it's $100 for 12 months. Like I'm not ripping people off. You get the data that I use. You'll get stuff as football comes around, and I transition it out a little bit. You'll get more data from football. You'll get the things I keep talking about on a regular basis. You'll get what I bet. If you want to bet it, great. If you don't, I'm okay with that too. The whole idea isn't to have you follow my bets, even though people do that. The reality is I'm trying to show you how to look at stuff and give you other things to think about and make you a better bettor. And I think it's worth $100. So go to the website. Website's MLB-daily.com. There's a little link at the top. It says membership sign up or something like that. Click that link, and it's $100, and you're in. And you can see all the different things that we do and where we're at and the stuff that goes on. So I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for being part of the show. Make some comments. Jay Barry, Brian Vaz, thank you for making comments on the show today. And I will see you guys tomorrow. And as far as I'm concerned, score some points tonight and go Packers. Have a great night.